thank you for tuning into my channel, and today I'm going to go over using Lightroom in combination with Photoshop to create your time lapse, or to put together your time lapse. So if you already shot your time lapse, you probably have a lot of images like I have right here, and this is just a stop sign out in the middle of the desert with some clouds going by rather quickly. And Lightroom makes a perfect first point for importing all of your images. I like to import them all into a single folder, which I have a stop sign with clouds over here, you can see. And once I get them imported in here, I can then edit one of them and apply that edit to all of them, which is generally the case when you have a time lapse. You have a ton of pictures. In this case, I think we have 660 photos right here that are in this. And so once I make a change to one, I want to add that to all of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on this image and make this a little bit larger and go on over to the develop module. And I'm going to work on this image itself. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to reduce or crop in to the proper size for video, and that's going to be 16:9 format. So when I go to crop here, you're going to see that aspect. If you click on this little down arrow here, you're going to see different presets, and one of the presets is a 16:9 or 1920 by 1080, which is what we want. Now the reason I want to crop in and do this on Lightroom is that I have control as to where I want this crop to appear. You know, I can have it mostly the sky with hardly any of the sign in it, or all of the sign with some of the sky in it, which is where I want it to be. Now if we just export it out of Photoshop, has a 16:9, you can see that we're going to cut off something, and most of the time it'll put it right in the middle, and it may not be the crop that you want. So always crop it in Lightroom before you head on over to Photoshop with your time lapses. So I want that crop. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and now I have that crop. And I'm going to change a couple things here. First thing I'm going to do is move my dehaze and adjust that a little bit, and adjust my clarity on my picture. Then once I have that, now I can adjust my exposure, because dehaze and clarity do change the exposure a little. Add a little bit of contrast to clouds, bring up some of those highlights there, and maybe bring down some of the shadows a tiny bit, not too much. I want to keep most of the shadows down here. Not that I have a lot of shadows, but so with that, that's pretty much. I mean, I could do some noise reduction on the clouds, which probably wouldn't be a bad thing. Let me just adjust that up a little bit there. And then once I do the noise reduction, I want to do the sharpening. Now I'm going to hold down my Alt key as I do my sharpening. That changes to black and white so that you can get a better look at the sharpening here. And then an Alt with my masking, and that's going to show me what's masked. Now right now everything is sharpened, but as I bring this down, you can see that all the black is not sharp, and only the white is the sharp, where the sharpening is affecting. And that's about what I want it to be, right about there. So now I have the noise reduction in the clouds, which makes them look smoother, but I still have all of my sharpening here on the stop sign, kills here. All right, so once I have that one done, the next thing is I want to sync them all. So I'm gonna, down here, I'm just gonna put Command A, and that's gonna highlight all of my film strip here and all of my images. So you can see that all 660 images are selected now. Now this auto sync here, we have two different functions here. If you click this down, we have sync, and then we have auto sync. When you have auto sync on, if I actually had held down and had all of these highlighted to begin with, any changes that I make to one would apply to all of them. But I like to just sync them at the end. I like to work on one, sync them at the end, see what I want to sync with, and when this comes up, this synchronization setting basically just tells me which ones that what part of the develop module that I want to sync with everything. And most of the time I have it just set to everything, unless I just did a crop, then I might select crop only, but I'm gonna synchronize everything. And you're gonna see that eventually it will start working here. First it's pasting the settings up here, and you can see that across this bar right here that's starting to do that. And so then it's going to paste these settings all the way across all of this sync here. So we'll just give it a minute to do that and be right back. Alright, so we're done. As you can see, it adjusted the crop on this and basically applied all those settings. You'll see that as I move through here, how to adjust the crop. It'll start adjusting across here and changing the settings and giving us a brighter blue sky. Alright, so once that's all done, the next thing I'm going to do is go back to library. Click on my library tab up here. And it takes a second because it's still finishing up the process. And now I want to export all of these out. So let me press G to go back to grid view. which taking a little bit because this is on an external drive, a mini drive, so that's it's not going to work quite as fast. Now notice that our pictures have this crop indicator right here showing that it has been cropped, and it also shows that some development has been done to each of these images here, so that we know that all of that has been applied. And as we scroll on down here, we can see that eventually they will all be applied to that once it renders and catches up with everything. So as you can see, it starts doing that now. I see how they all have that sign on there. Okay, so now I want to export these, and I'm going to probably export a larger JPEG because we don't really need a huge size file for our images for the time lapse. So I'll come on over here, JPEG there, color space sRGB, which is fine. What I do want to do, image sizing, I'm just going to leave that alone, but I'm going to go up to renaming here. I'm going to go up to, well, I may not, because see, these already have 01, they start at 01. So if they didn't, I would rename this. I'd use a custom setting with numbers, and then basically give it start with number 1 and head on out. But you can see that it already starts with number 1, 2, and 3, so it's already been named correctly when I imported it. I'm going to change this to 72 pixels per inch. That should work just fine. Well, actually, I'm going to put 100 pixels per inch on that. Okay, so once I have those, I'm going to export, and it's going to bring up a menu to ask me where I want to export them to. And I think I'm just going to go right to my desktop with this one. And I'm going to pick, let me see, this folder being used as. So I'm going to pick a new folder, and I'm just going to put time-lapse. And create and open. And so now we will prepare to export here, and we'll let all of those export out. And that's going to take a little bit of time to export 660 files. So I will let it do its job, and we'll come back soon as it's done. Okay, we have that all finished. We can see that our bar has closed out here at the top. So now we're going to move on over to Photoshop to finish this up. And I'll just open up my Photoshop file here. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a new Photoshop file here. Let me get this towards the center. Now when you create this new file, what you want to do is you want to go to Film and Video, which is at the top here. Click on this one over here. And 1080p is about what we want. We want 1080p, 1920 by 1080p, 72 ppi. So we saved it out as 100, so we have plenty there. It already has everything that we need right here. 8-bit's fine. And so I'm going to go ahead and create that. Okay, so once we have this format here, what we want to do is we want to go up to File, and we want to go to Open. And now I'm just going to navigate to where my images were, which were on the desktop and in my time-lapse folder here. And I'm going to select the first one here, the stop sign 001. Now when I select this, all I need to do is select that one, but what I do have to do is come down this option, click on Option, and we have a little square here called Image Sequence. And so I want to open this as Image Sequence. It's telling Photoshop that when you open up this one, we want to have all of these opened up with it. And that's going to create one image after the other. And so I'm going to tell it to open, and 30 frames a second, that's fine. Click here, and you see that we have 30, which is North America PAL. You really want 29.97. So when you look at these, just think that if you want 24 frames a second, you want to click on this one. If you want 15, you want 12.5. If you want 60 frames a second, you want 59.94. So just always pick these ones right here, and that's for North America television and video. And we'll click OK on this. And so we get this single picture, and we see that it's picture there, but we do have this little layer thumbnail here, and it's got this little clip here that looks like a video clip, and you see that it's a video group, although it only shows one image. So in order to work with this, what we're going to have to do is we're going to go up top here to Windows and pull the drop down and come on down and click on Timeline. And this is going to open up a little timeline for us. And now we have a timeline that is going to play, and when we play it here, you'll see that, and it's going to be clunky right now because it's sort of rendering at the same time. You see how the clouds are going by, and this truck comes into view. And let me just move this timeline down a little bit here so that you can see all of that. And we'll push play again, and there is our sky. You see how when it rendered, it went rather quickly, and as it gets to the part that hasn't rendered, it slows down. So you don't really have to worry about rendering the whole thing out just yet, because that will happen at the end. But we do want our sky to work with us. So I think what I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let this render out. So we'll speed this up so that you don't have to watch this whole thing, but we'll let it render out so that way we can get a feel as to how this is going to be. Alright, so I got that little brief short part here to show you how it renders. So we'll see, and you can see that the sky is moving rather quickly across there. And you can see that the green shows that it's rendered out, and as it hits further, it's not rendering as fast. So the other thing we can do is we can also add an audio track if we want to. So let me go ahead and bring in an audio so that we can have audio added to it. Okay, so that one looked good to me. I'm just going to add that in. Now we can see that it is much longer than our video file, obviously. But what I will do is I will bring in a little bit here, and I will adjust the back end here, because we want to bring this in, because we don't want it to go longer than that, because that's going to extend our video quite a bit. So I'm going to have about a half-second fade in and about a half-second fade out. Basically, the sound is just going to go in, come in low and raise up, and then go back down towards the end here. So let's see if we have any sound here at all. Alright, so we have sound with that. We have everything set. So now what we're going to do is we're going to export this out and make our final video. So up at File here, go up to File, and we're going to go to Export here, and then we're going to go down to Render Video, and we're going to export this out as video. And this is going to give us some options that you don't normally have in Photoshop. So it's initializing the video export, putting it all together, and here are our options. And we have an untitled thing here, so I'm going to put so it stops on time-lapse, select folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the folder, and I'm just going to put it on my desktop again so that we can look at it and choose that. And Adobe Media Encoder, you have all kinds of presets here. QuickTime if you're working on Mac. H.264 is pretty standard for YouTube and all of those. Document size preset, have it as high quality. You have different choices here as to how you want to make that. So let's see, we're gonna put on YouTube and YouTube HD 1080. So let's go with the 29.97. That way it's all the same. You see that it has a preset. It changed that back to preset size, which is this right here. So everything else is good. I'm gonna go ahead and click render, and we're gonna let this thing render out. And so what it's gonna do is it's gonna render out, and it's gonna take a little bit of time to do that. Once it's done, you're gonna be able to see the exported video and wherever it is that you saved it. And from there you can upload it to YouTube or use it wherever you want to use it. So and we'll see in the background how that just speeds up here. But hopefully that has helped you out and made it easy for you to do put together your time lapse. Again, there are other programs out there that allow you to do time lapse to give you more control over things. LR time lapse is one that I use all the time, and maybe I'll do a tutorial on that later on. It's a little bit more advanced program for time lapse, designed specifically for time lapse, which does incorporate Lightroom in with it. But other than this gets you a quick time lapse out there with music, and hopefully this will get you going on time lapse and enjoy that aspect of photography. So if you like this video, please give it a like. Please do subscribe, because I will be having a number of videos on Lightroom, Photoshop, and video editing, and also photography how-tos. So hopefully you enjoyed all that, and look to having you join in again.